Uncle John, Lisa told me that you know how to time travel. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Well, how do you do it?
Well, the same way that you're familiar with using Kundalini meditation to raise your vibrations in your seven chakras so you can pop out of your body, astral project is how it's done. But instead of focusing on flying around above the forest and old houses, you focus on a moment in time that you remember, and you just keep opening your eyes until you're back there.
Well, can you give me a specific example of how it's done? Well, sure. One time, when I was a young man, I had a babysitter who was very attractive. My mother would drop me off to her house, and then she would take me to school later. But one time she told me that she didn't like me walking around the back rooms of the house where her daughter's room was. And I was kind of irritated because I wasn't spying on her daughter anyhow. But I did think the babysitter herself was attractive. And she was rude to me a few other times. So, at any rate, when I became older and interested in Eastern meditation and temple religion, I learned about astral projection, healing, and time travel through cymatic vibration. That's a sacred geometry we see in all vibration above and below. But at any rate, I meditated back to this time when she told me to get out of those back rooms. And I found myself in the backyard where I positioned myself, and I was staring intently at the cyclone fence. That was my grounding anchor towards this time. I focused and focused and focused the same way we do with vibrations and Kundalini meditation to get the intended result of popping out of the body and flying around. But instead of popping out of the body and flying around in a simple astral projection, I focused on shifting my whole body to this time when I was a kid at the babysitter in the backyard staring at the cyclone fence. I opened my eyes and I was there. It was real. I had a real body. I stared at my hands a few minutes to make sure they were real. I inspected my fingernails, my teeth, the metal on the cyclone fence, the blades of grass, and I knew I was there. The first few times I did it, just like astral projection, I got scared and I came back into my body. But I eventually learned to let go of one dimension and grab onto another, just like Tarzan. Swinging through the jungle, vine to vine, you have to let go of the last reality, or vine, and grab onto the next reality, or vine, to be able to time travel and do all kinds of other miraculous things you can do with Kundalini meditation. At any rate, I got back there, it was real, and when the vibrations were still strong, I summoned the comet. The wet comet, or wet asteroid, came down from the sky and it landed in the river, relatively close to the house. And it immediately flooded everywhere. There was a wave above my head. I held my breath and it came down on me. I swam up through the trees. The trees ripped off most of my clothes. I was treading water for quite a while. A family in a boat came up to me and they threw me a life vessel, and the wind or the waves pushed them away. I yelled, "Help, help." I tried to get them to return, but they couldn't. They went off. I was in the life vessel. Eventually, the babysitter came up screaming and crying and treading water too. After maybe half an hour, I found her and I helped her onto the life vessel. I'm not sure what she had went through. Actually, I knew exactly what she went through because my mind was still vibrating and connected to the Kundalini Godhead. Through cymatic vibration, I had orchestrated it all, but I pretended like I didn't know what she went through. And as she was crying and sobbing hysterically, I allowed her to tell me exactly what she went through. Apparently, as she was taking her morning bath, she noticed that her bathroom had begun to flood. She rushed out to the kitchen and the living room, where she found her own 3 children dead, drowned in the water, and battered and torn by being knocked up against the furniture and the walls. All the kids she babysitted and her own children were all gone. She was frantic. The roof ripped off her home, and the water came in. She found her way to the surface of the new ocean, where she ran into me after about half an hour of treading water, and I saved her. We saw Mount Hood in the distance, but it was beginning to disappear, being swallowed by water as well. After about 3 weeks of drifting through the ocean, we became much closer. We became good friends. She was starting to get past her mourning and loss and enjoy herself a little. She woke me up and she said, "I see land, I see land, I see land." And we went to the island that we found, and we also found a deserted cabin with the remains of an old man who must have built it, and there was a nice bed in there. We were happy to finally get some rest and get somewhere with some decent food we could gather, like coconuts and different fish and bananas and whatnot. But yeah, we were getting really tired of those SOS biscuits. It was wonderful. We had weeks and weeks and weeks of fun. But one night I decided I should enter another deep state of Kundalini meditations, and through vibration and visualization, I should summon another woman to the island. She too will have been a victim of the flood that flooded a quarter of the earth with a wet asteroid or comet I summoned earlier. I summoned this girl out of a different timeline, out of maybe the year 2012, when the world ended or began, when people discovered the singularity and how this stuff is done again. Anyhow, the girl I summoned was about 21 years old, long blonde hair, just someone in the neighborhood I had always had my eye on. I figured that would help relieve our loneliness, and perhaps I could populate the island a little faster with 2 women. This all worked out well, and it was real fun. As time went by, I occasionally entered a state of Kundalini meditation with deep vibrations to summon more women to the island. We had a big family, lots of children, and it was wonderful. We grew old, and then I came back here. Wow, that sounds really cool, Uncle John. Are there any kind of drawbacks to this type of spell? Well, yes, there's pros and cons to everything. One would be to say there's a girl you're really attracted to, but she's always been nice to you and not done anything bad at all. You wouldn't want to put her and her kids through this. You wouldn't want to make her see the loss of her children. You wouldn't want to rip her away from all her friends and family members with a giant ocean appearing out of the middle of nowhere. So, if someone's already on the path of the Dharma, protected by Dorji Shuten, you might want to just leave them alone, or at the very best, try to teach them how all this stuff works, and they can choose what they want. But to the people who have lived outside the golden path and avoided harmony with nature and the divine rules, you can do what you want to get them back on the path. Dorji Shugen approves, I would imagine. The other drawbacks are you might be labeled as a Prometheus by the other gods or angels. And one of the other drawbacks is sometimes the other gods or angels or neckbeard computer programmers outside the veil will try to stop you. But the Bible shows where men have wrestled with angels, so perhaps this is something that you have the right to do. But perhaps they'll just let you through. Mormons believe there are certain token handshakes and whatnot you can use with the angels where they will allow you to pass through. But if you're not in a group like that, you may have to fight an angel. Hopefully you won't, though.